At 2:17 in the morning, the green telephone inside my abandoned gas station rang. It had not rung in 27 years. The public line had been disconnected in 1998. But the bell kept sounding. Sharp. Metallic. Impossible to ignore. I lifted the receiver. "Hello?" My granddaughter whispered. "Grandma, don't turn on the lights." "Chloe?" "I'm in the old pump house beside the well." My hand tightened around the receiver. The station office and pump house had once been connected by a private crank phone line. Robert used it when the fuel pumps needed repairs. He had shown Chloe how it worked when she was little. No phone company was required. Only 2 old machines and several hundred feet of buried wire. Chloe continued. "Mom forged your name. Dad gave her your spare key." Then I heard an engine behind her. "They're here, Grandma." Headlights swept across the dusty office window. A black pickup stopped beside the rusted fuel pumps. My son, Daniel, climbed out first. My daughter-in-law, Melissa, followed him. A locksmith stepped from the passenger side carrying a metal case. I turned off my lantern. Then I started the recorder on my cell phone. Daniel walked to the front door. He inserted the spare key I had given him 9 years earlier. I had trusted him to use it during emergencies. He turned it. The key stopped halfway. I had changed the lock that afternoon. Melissa's voice cut through the silence. "You said it still worked." "It should," Daniel replied. The locksmith examined the door. "Do you have written permission from the owner?" Melissa answered without hesitation. "We own the property now." That was the first lie I captured. Daniel lowered his voice. "My mother trusted me with that key." Melissa gave a quiet laugh. "That is why this worked." Before I tell you what they were searching for, take one moment with me. Look just below this video for the word subscribe. On a phone or tablet, tap that button once with your finger. On a computer, click it once with your mouse. If you are watching on a television, use your remote to move down until subscribe is highlighted, then press OK. When it changes to subscribed, you are finished. It costs nothing. Then tap the thumbs up symbol so YouTube knows you enjoy these stories. Write your city in the comments, even if it is only 2 words. And use the share arrow to send this story to one person who may understand what family betrayal feels like. Outside, Melissa walked toward the stone well. Chloe was still hiding only a few feet away. Daniel followed his wife. Then Melissa said something I had never heard before. "Once we find the 1998 survey, the resale is guaranteed." Not the sale. The resale. And that was when I realized they were not only stealing my property. They had already found someone willing to pay millions for it. Melissa lifted the iron cover beside the old well. Daniel aimed his flashlight into the shallow storage chamber below it. The chamber was not part of the well itself. Robert had built it years ago to hold pump tools and maintenance records. Melissa reached inside. "There should be a metal tube." Daniel looked at her. "You told me this was about selling the station." "It is." "You said nothing about a resale." She ignored him and searched beneath a stack of rusted pipe fittings. From the office, I could see the pump house door behind them. Chloe was still inside. Only 20 feet separated her from her parents. I pressed the receiver closer to my ear. "Stay quiet," I whispered. Her breathing trembled through the old line. Daniel lowered his voice. "How much is the second buyer paying?" Melissa stopped searching. "We do not have time for this." "That means you know." "The closing is tomorrow afternoon. We need the original survey before the title company releases anything." Daniel stepped between her and the chamber. "How much, Melissa?" She looked toward the road. Then toward the station. "More than your mother needs to know." I saved the recording. That sentence mattered. It proved they were not trying to protect me. They were protecting the price from me. Melissa returned to the storage chamber. The metal tube was not there. Robert had moved it years earlier after rainwater damaged several records. I knew exactly where it was. They did not. Daniel kicked a loose stone. What happens if we cannot find it? The county copy is incomplete, Melissa said. Without the original survey exhibit, the title company may delay the resale. And the first sale? That agreement is already filed. My forged agreement. 6 hours earlier, Melissa had placed it beside my dinner plate. We had gathered at my house for the second anniversary of Robert's passing. I made pot roast. Daniel brought wine. Chloe barely touched her food. After dessert, Melissa opened a cream-colored folder. We handled the gas station for you, she said. I looked at my son. What does that mean? He stared at the table. Melissa slid the contract toward me. The property has been sold. I saw my name on the final page. Grace Whitaker. The signature looked perfect. But I had never seen the document. The buyer offered $140,000, Melissa said. That is generous for an abandoned station. It includes 46 acres. Empty acres, she replied. I turned to Daniel. Did you know about this? He finally looked at me. Mom, you already signed. No, I did not. Melissa softened her voice. Grace, grief can affect memory. That was not concern. It was preparation. Then she placed a second document beside the contract. The closing time was printed in bold. 2:17 the next afternoon. And when Daniel said I might simply have forgotten signing, I understood the truth. My daughter-in-law had forged my name. But my son had agreed to make me doubt my own mind. I did not argue with them at the dinner table. I took the contract into my home office. Then I locked the door. The signature looked like mine because part of it was mine. I placed the sale agreement beside every document I had signed during the past year. Tax forms. Insurance papers. A hospital authorization from my hip procedure. That was where I found it. The final curve in the G matched. So did the faint break in the W. Even a tiny blue mark appeared in the same place. Melissa had not copied my handwriting. She had lifted the entire signature line from my medical form. Then she placed it beneath a contract I had never seen. I photographed both pages. Next, I studied the witness section. Chloe's name appeared beneath mine. The contract claimed she watched me sign at 1:30 in the afternoon on March 14th. But Chloe had been in Chicago that day. Her senior history class visited the Field Museum. I still had the photograph she sent me beside the dinosaur display. The time stamp read 1:42. 12 minutes after she supposedly watched me sign in Indiana. Nearly 200 miles away. I called her. She answered quietly. Grandma? Did your mother ask you to sign something 3 weeks ago? A long pause. She said it was for a college scholarship. Did you read the page? No. She covered the top with a folder. Was your father there? Yes. That answer cut deeper than the forged name. What did he say? He told me to sign because they were protecting my tuition money. Then Melissa's voice sounded in the background. Chloe, who are you talking to? The call ended. I contacted the county recorder's office next. A clerk confirmed the agreement had already been filed. It carried my signature. Chloe's witness line. And a valid notary seal. I never signed it, I said. You may need a court order, she replied. I called the sheriff's office. The deputy listened carefully. Then gave me the answer Melissa had expected. There was no forced entry. The document appears complete. This may be a civil dispute. That was the first wall around me. They did not need the forgery to survive forever. They only needed it to survive until 2:17 the next afternoon. I returned to the final page. Near the bottom, someone had added a handwritten note. Original 1998 survey exhibit required before resale. Pump house storage. I read the word again. Resale. Not sale. That was why I drove to the gas station before midnight. Now, through the old private phone line, Chloe whispered from the pump house. "Grandma, Mom is coming toward the door." I looked through the office window. Melissa had left Daniel beside the well. She was walking straight toward the building where my granddaughter was hiding. And in her hand was the same blue folder she had used to cover Chloe's signature page. Melissa reached for the pump house door. Chloe's breathing filled the old receiver. "Grandma, she's right outside." "Stay low," I whispered. The door handle moved. Once. Then again. Melissa knocked. "Chloe?" My granddaughter froze. She knew her mother had recognized the car she parked down the road. Daniel called from beside the well. "Melissa, what are you doing?" I heard something. I needed both of them looking away from the pump house. My car was hidden behind the station garage. The key fob was still in my coat pocket. I pressed the panic button. The horn exploded into the quiet morning. Lights flashed against the office windows. Daniel turned toward the garage. Melissa spun around. "Your mother is here." They ran toward the station. I spoke quickly into the receiver. "Back window. Go now." The pump house had one narrow window facing the cornfield. Robert installed it for ventilation. Chloe pushed it open and climbed through. I watched her drop into the grass. Then she ran toward the tree line. Melissa reached the garage first. She pulled at the side door. "Grace." I stayed silent. Daniel moved toward the office window. I stepped behind the old counter before he could see me. Melissa struck the door with her palm. "We have court papers." "Not yet," Daniel said. "We will in a few hours." That sentence told me the petition had already been prepared. Melissa lowered her voice. "Once you have temporary control, your mother cannot stop the resale." Daniel looked at her. "You still haven't told me who the second buyer is." "You don't need every detail. I need to know what I'm signing." "You already signed what mattered." Daniel did not answer. For the first time, I heard fear in his silence. Melissa walked back toward the pump house. The blue folder was still resting on the stone ledge. She opened it. One page was missing. Chloe had taken it. A minute later, the pickup disappeared down County Road 18. I waited until the headlights were gone. Then I left through the rear office door. Chloe was waiting in my car near the tree line. She held the missing page against her chest. "How did you know the old phone still worked?" I asked. "Grandpa showed me when I was 9. She wiped dirt from her jeans. He said the line did not need the phone company. You turned the crank, and the other bell rang." 27 years of silence had ended because my granddaughter remembered one small lesson. She handed me the page. At the top was the name Mercer Land Holdings. Below it was another name. Northfield Logistics Partners. 2 buyers. 2 contracts. And one line printed in bold. Second transfer to occur immediately after first closing. Melissa was not selling my land once. She was selling it twice. But the page did not show the second price. For that, I needed someone who knew where counties hid the records people were never expected to read. Helen Carter opened the county records office at 6:30 that morning. She had worked there for 32 years before retiring. Now she volunteered twice a week. I trusted her because she never guessed when a document could answer. Chloe and I met her at the side entrance. I placed the stolen page on the counter. "Mercer Land Holdings," Helen read. "Do you know this company?" "My daughter-in-law controls it." "And Northfield Logistics?" "The second buyer." Helen looked at me over her glasses. You said the first contract pays you $140,000? Yes. She sat at the computer. Then let's see what happens after your name disappears. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. County parcel records. State business filings. Pending development notices. The gas station sat on 46 acres beside County Road 18. That much I knew. What I did not know was that a new highway interchange had been approved less than 2 miles away. Behind my property was a planned commercial district. It had no direct access to the highway. No legal entrance. No approved service road. Except through my land. Helen enlarged an old survey map. A narrow strip crossed my parcel. This easement is the key, she said. What does that mean? Any company building behind you needs permission to use this route. How much is that worth? She did not answer immediately. Instead, she opened a pending title file. Northfield Logistics Partners had agreed to pay $4.8 million. I stared at the number. $140,000 to me, I said. $4.8 million from Northfield. Helen nodded. It is a same-day transfer. Mercer Land Holdings would purchase my property first. Then transfer it to Northfield within minutes. The difference would remain with Mercer. Melissa's company. Chloe sat down slowly. How much would Mom keep? Helen calculated the expected taxes and closing costs. Approximately $3.7 million. Daniel believed the sale would rescue his construction company. His debt was $912,000. Melissa planned to pay that amount. Then keep almost everything else. My son had agreed to betray me for his business. His wife had designed the plan to betray him next. Helen opened another document. The title company wants the original 1998 survey exhibit because the county scan is missing the legal description page. That is what they were searching for near the well. Do you have it? Yes. Where? In my bank safe deposit box. For the first time that morning, I felt the ground steady beneath me. Melissa had searched the wrong place. But Helen's expression did not soften. She turned the screen toward me. A court petition had been filed at 6:12. Daniel and Melissa were asking for temporary control of my finances and property. The petition claimed I had become confused after Robert died. It listed forgotten appointments. Unpaid bills. Conversations I supposedly repeated. Every statement was false. The hearing was scheduled for 9 o'clock. And if the judge believed them, Daniel could sign both transfers before anyone examined the real price. My phone rang. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. I answered. His voice was barely above a whisper. Mom, please don't go to court. Why? Because Melissa says she can prove you are no longer capable of managing the land. I looked at Helen. Then I asked the question my son could not escape. Did you sign the statement saying I was mentally unfit? He said nothing. That silence was his confession. At 7:45, Helen and I sat in a small conference room inside the courthouse. Chloe stayed beside me. The petition was 12 pages long. Every page described a woman I did not recognize. According to Melissa, I had missed tax payments. Forgot family appointments. Repeated the same questions. Become confused about property documents. Daniel had signed beneath every claim. Helen turned to the attachments. This is not random, she said. She showed me a late tax notice. The county had mailed it to Daniel's address. Not mine. Someone had changed the mailing information 2 months earlier. Then she found an appointment reminder from my dentist. It had been sent to an email account Melissa created for me. I had never used it. They moved the information away from you, Helen said. Then they blamed you for not receiving it. Chloe looked sick. There's more. She pointed to a photograph attached to the petition. It showed me sitting at the memorial dinner with the sale contract in front of me. The caption read, Grace Whitaker, unable to remember signing legal documents. Melissa had taken the photograph while I was asking why my name appeared on a contract I had never seen. She had turned my discovery of the fraud into evidence that I was confused. I read the next page. Daniel claimed I had asked him the same question 3 times during one phone call. What question? I asked. Chloe answered quietly. You asked where Dad found the buyer. I remembered that call. Daniel had avoided answering. So I asked again. And again. Not because I forgot. Because my son refused to tell me the truth. Helen closed the folder. They do not need to prove you are incapable forever. How long do they need? Until the property transfers. 5 hours. That was the entire plan. Make me look uncertain. Give Daniel temporary authority. Complete both sales. Then argue about the damage after the money was gone. I opened my purse. Inside were my recent bank statements. Paid tax receipts. Insurance renewals. The station's maintenance records. Every account balanced. Every deadline met. I had also brought the original medical form carrying the signature Melissa copied. Helen arranged the documents by date. Chloe added the Chicago school itinerary and her time-stamped photographs. At 8:25, the courtroom clerk entered. Mrs. Whitaker, the judge will hear the emergency petition at 9. Will the sale be paused? Not unless the judge orders it. The closing remained scheduled for 2:17. I looked through the glass wall. Melissa was walking down the hallway with an attorney. She wore a cream coat and carried the same blue folder. Daniel followed several steps behind her. He saw me. Then looked away. A moment later, my phone vibrated. A message from my son appeared. Meet me behind the courthouse. Alone. Melissa cannot know, ****. Helen read it over my shoulder. Do you trust him? I stood and picked up my coat. No. Then I looked toward the hallway where Daniel had disappeared. But I want to hear which lie he is finally afraid to keep. Daniel was waiting behind the courthouse beside his truck. His tie was loose. His hands were shaking. I stopped several feet away. You signed the petition, I said. He looked toward the building. Yes. You told a judge I could not manage my own property. I told them you had been under stress. You told them I forgot bills. He swallowed. Melissa wrote most of it. But you signed your name. He looked at me then. For the first time that morning, there was no attorney beside him. No blue folder. No wife answering for him. Only my son. And the choices he had already made. I knew you did not sign the sale contract, he said. The words landed harder than I expected. How long have you known? Since Melissa showed me the final copy. And you said nothing. I thought we could fix it after closing. Fix what? He rubbed both hands over his face. Pay the company debt. Keep the bank from taking everything. Put money back later. How much were you promised? His silence answered first. Then he said it. $912,000. Exactly what his company owed. I stepped closer. You agreed to sell 46 acres you did not own because the number matched your debt. I have 14 employees. And I am your mother. His face tightened. I was scared. So was Chloe when you told her to sign a page she could not read. He looked away. She told you? She told me the truth. Daniel lowered his voice. I never wanted her involved. You were standing beside Melissa. I thought it was only a witness page. You knew it was not a scholarship form. He did not deny it. That was enough. I took out my phone and showed him the resale figure. $4.8 million. His face changed. No. Yes. He stared at the screen. She told me Northfield was paying enough to clear the debt and cover taxes. She plans to keep about $3.7 million. Daniel stepped back against the truck. That cannot be right. It is filed under Mercer Land Holdings. He looked toward the courthouse. Melissa owns Mercer. I know. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then the fear in his face changed. It was no longer fear of losing his company. It was fear of understanding his wife. She was going to leave me with the debt payment, he said. And take the rest. He closed his eyes. I felt no satisfaction. Only sadness. My son had betrayed me willingly. Now he had discovered that betrayal travels in both directions. Tell the truth in court, I said. Daniel shook his head. If I do that, I lose the company. You may lose it anyway. She will leave. That is not the question. He looked at me. What is? Whether you will keep lying after you finally know what she planned. Before he could answer, the courthouse door opened. Melissa stepped outside with Paul Rourke. The notary carried a leather folder. Daniel's face went pale. That is Dad's old signature folder, he whispered. My husband had been gone for 2 years. But Paul was carrying a new document with Robert's name on it. Paul Rourke followed Melissa toward the parking garage. Daniel started after them. I caught his sleeve. Not yet. She has Dad's signature folder. And she expects you to react. He looked at me. Then what do we do? We listen. Helen and Chloe joined us near the service entrance. We moved behind a concrete wall beside the garage ramp. Melissa and Paul stopped near his gray sedan. Paul opened the leather folder. Inside was a 2-page amendment. Robert's name appeared at the bottom. Even from several feet away, I recognized the shape of his signature. My husband had signed thousands of business forms during his life. That did not mean he had signed this one. Paul tapped the second page. This gives Daniel temporary authority if Grace becomes unable to manage the property. Melissa crossed her arms. The judge will accept it? With the petition, yes. And after Daniel signs both transfers? Mercer receives the Northfield payment. Daniel shifted beside me. I placed one finger against my lips. Melissa lowered her voice. How quickly can I move the balance? Once the title company releases it. What about Daniel's company payment? Paul sounded impatient. You already instructed escrow. $912,000 goes to the bank. And the rest comes to Mercer. Approximately $3.7 million after expenses. Daniel's breathing stopped. He had seen the number on my phone. Now he heard it from them. Paul closed the folder. Does Daniel know? He knows what he needs to know. He may ask questions after closing. Melissa gave a small laugh. After closing, his company survives. He will be grateful. And your marriage? There was a pause. Then Melissa answered. Daniel was useful because Grace trusted him. My son flinched. Melissa continued. Once the land is transferred, I will decide what happens next. I felt Daniel pull away from the wall. He was ready to confront her. I gripped his wrist. Let her finish, I whispered. Paul glanced toward the courthouse doors. The original survey is still missing. It no longer matters if the judge gives Daniel control. It may matter to the title company. Then use the county microfilm. Paul shook his head. The legal description page is incomplete. Melissa's voice hardened. Find a way. That is what I paid you for. I saved the recording on my phone. Then I made a second copy and sent it to Helen. Daniel stared at the concrete floor. She never planned to stay, he said. No. She used me. Yes. His face tightened. You knew she would. I suspected it. But hearing the truth does not erase what you did to me. He looked toward the garage. What do you want me to do? Tell the judge everything. Before he could answer, the courthouse doors opened. A bailiff called our names. The hearing was beginning. Melissa entered first. Paul followed with Robert's forged amendment. Daniel stood between them and me. He had only a few steps left to choose a side. Then Melissa turned and saw him beside me. Melissa saw Daniel standing beside me. Her expression changed for only a second. Then she smiled. Daniel, come sit with your family. He looked at Chloe. Then at me. But when the courtroom doors opened, he walked to Melissa's table. He had not chosen the truth. Not yet. The hearing began at 9 sharp. Melissa's attorney spoke first. He described me as a grieving widow who had become confused about money and property. He showed the judge the late tax notice. The missed dental appointment. The photograph from Robert's memorial dinner. In that photograph, I was staring at the forged contract. The caption said I could not remember signing it. Every lie sounded reasonable when presented alone. Together, they made me appear helpless. Then the attorney held up the sale agreement. Mrs. Whitaker denies this signature, he said. Yet she admits it is her handwriting. I stood slowly. The signature was taken from a hospital authorization. Can you prove that? Helen placed both documents on the evidence table. The skipped ink mark matched. The curve of every letter matched. Then Chloe gave the judge her Chicago school itinerary. She had been nearly 200 miles away when the contract claimed she witnessed my signature. Melissa's attorney barely reacted. A misunderstanding involving the witness does not prove Mrs. Whitaker lacked capacity when she signed. That was how they worked. When one lie weakened, they moved to the next. Then Paul Rourke stepped forward. He opened Robert's leather signature folder. Inside was a document I had never seen. It claimed Robert had amended our property agreement 11 months before he passed. According to the amendment, Daniel could control the station if I became unable to manage it myself. Robert's signature appeared at the bottom. Paul's notary seal appeared beside it. The judge studied the page. Mr. Rourke, did Robert Whitaker sign this in your presence? Yes, Your Honor. You are certain? I remember the meeting clearly. Melissa finally looked at me. She believed she had one. I studied the amendment. The signature looked real. Because part of it probably was. Paul had kept copies of Robert's old business papers for years. The judge turned toward me. Mrs. Whitaker, unless this amendment can be challenged, it may support temporary authority for your son. I felt Chloe reach for my hand. The closing remained scheduled for 2:17. If Daniel received control, Melissa could complete both transfers before sunset. The judge looked at the clock. It is 9:48. I will allow until 1 o'clock for additional evidence. 3 hours and 12 minutes. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me. Mom, I didn't know about that document. I believe you. Relief touched his face. Then I finished. But you knew about the first forgery. He lowered his eyes. Helen was still reading the amendment. Suddenly, she stopped walking. She pointed to the legal description near the top. A parcel number. Then a highway project code. Grace, she whispered, Robert could not have signed this. Why? Because neither of these numbers existed until after he died. Helen pointed to the parcel number on Robert's amendment. Your husband passed away 2 years ago, she said. This number was assigned 11 months later. I read it again. The digits looked ordinary. That was what made the fraud dangerous. Nothing appeared wrong unless someone knew when the county changed its records. Helen tapped the highway project code beneath it. This code was created after the interchange received final approval. Robert never saw it. So the amendment was written after his death. Yes. Daniel stood behind us. His face had gone pale. Can we prove that before 1 o'clock? Helen checked her watch. We can prove the dates. But we also need to prove Paul notarized something that never happened. We hurried to the county archives. The older records were stored in a basement room beneath the courthouse. Rows of metal cabinets filled the space. Helen found the parcel conversion ledger first. My property had carried an older number while Robert was alive. The new parcel number became active 14 months after his final hospital stay. She copied the certification page. Then she located the Transportation Department notice. The Highway Project code appeared for the first time 8 months after Robert passed. 2 details inside the amendment came from the future. But Paul could still claim someone typed the wrong description onto an older signed page. Helen knew that too. We need his notary journal. At 11:15, the clerk brought us Paul's official logbook. Every notarization required a date, a name, a document type, and a signature from the person who appeared before him. We searched the date printed on Robert's amendment. There were 4 entries. A mortgage release. A vehicle title. 2 affidavits. Robert's name was not there. Neither was any property amendment. Daniel stared at the blank space. He lied under oath. Yes, I said. But you still signed the first lie. He lowered his head. I did not have time to comfort him. At 11:42, Chloe called from Helen's office. She had found something inside the county microfilm archive. The missing legal description page from the 1998 survey. The page Melissa believed she needed from my safe deposit box. The county had preserved a second copy after all. Helen printed it with the archive stamp. Now the title company had no reason to depend on Melissa's documents. We returned to the courtroom at 12:20. The judge reviewed the parcel ledger, the project notice, the notary journal. Paul's attorney asked for time to explain. The judge looked directly at Paul. Did Robert Whitaker sign this amendment in your presence? Paul's mouth opened. No answer came. Melissa leaned toward him and whispered something. Daniel heard it. So did I. Say it was a clerical mistake. Paul looked at her. Then at the evidence. For the first time, he understood she was prepared to leave him carrying the fraud alone. The judge ordered a short recess. At 12:38, the courtroom clerk entered with an urgent message. The title company had received the certified survey. The resale could now proceed without the original document. Closing remained set for 2:17. We had 39 minutes to stop it. The courtroom clock read 12:38. 99 minutes remained. Melissa's attorney asked the judge to delay the hearing. He called the parcel numbers clerical errors. He called the missing notary entry an oversight. Then he claimed the sale should continue because Northfield was an innocent buyer. The judge turned to Paul. Did Robert Whitaker appear before you? Paul looked at Melissa. She stared straight ahead. Mr. Rourke, the judge repeated. Paul's shoulders dropped. No. One word destroyed the strongest document they had. Melissa stood. He prepared that amendment without my knowledge. Paul turned toward her. You gave me Robert's signature folder. Her attorney told her to stop speaking. She ignored him. You said the old signature was usable. Paul opened his briefcase. Then he removed a printed email. It came from you. The message instructed him to place Robert's signature beneath the new property description. It also promised him payment after closing. Melissa's face lost its color. Daniel rose from his chair. I knew Mom never signed the first contract. The courtroom became silent. He looked at the judge. I gave Melissa the medical authorization. I gave her the spare key. I signed the petition saying my mother was confused. Melissa grabbed his sleeve. Daniel, sit down. He pulled away. She promised $912,000 for my company. I knew it was wrong. I told myself I could repay Mom later. He looked at me. I cannot repay what I did. No, I said. You cannot. Chloe began crying quietly. Not because her father had saved us. Because he had finally admitted how far he had gone. I played the recording from the gas station. Melissa's voice filled the courtroom. More than your mother needs to know. Then Helen played the garage recording. Daniel was useful because Grace trusted him. Daniel closed his eyes. The judge issued an emergency order freezing both transfers. The order was signed at 1:26. But signing it was not enough. The county recorder had to receive it before 2:17. At 1:40, the electronic filing system rejected the document because one attachment was too large. Helen divided the exhibits and sent them again. At 1:53, the courthouse internet failed. The clerk faxed the order. No confirmation arrived. 2 o'clock. Northfield's attorneys entered the closing call. 2:05. Mercer Land Holdings signed its final transfer page. 2:08. The recorder's office still had not confirmed the freeze. Then, at 2:09, the clerk's phone rang. She listened. Her expression softened. The transfer has been suspended. 8 minutes before closing. Melissa sat motionless. Paul lowered his head. Daniel looked at me as though he expected forgiveness because he had finally spoken. I gave him the truth instead. You helped stop the last 8 minutes, I said. But you helped build every hour before them. The land was still mine. My mind was still my own. But winning the property did not restore the family I thought I had. 1 year later, the old gas station opened again. Not as a place to sell fuel. As a place to protect people. I converted the front office into a small community center for older adults who needed help understanding documents before they signed them. Every Tuesday and Thursday, volunteers sat beneath the restored Whitaker fuel and service sign. They reviewed property transfers. Loan agreements. Power of attorney forms. Insurance papers. Anything that could become dangerous when trust replaced careful reading. Helen handled the land records. A retired paralegal explained contracts in plain English. Chloe helped visitors scan important documents into secure digital folders. She had started college 30 miles away. But twice a month, she returned to the station. One afternoon, an older woman handed her a blank signature page. My daughter said the other pages were not important, she explained. Chloe pulled out a chair. Then we will read the other pages first. I heard strength in her voice. Not anger. Strength. Daniel lost his construction company. The bank took control of the remaining business assets. He sold his large house and moved into a small apartment near town. I did not pay his debt. I did not replace what he lost. He asked whether I still loved him. Yes, I said. But love does not erase responsibility. Daniel began helping repair the station. He replaced broken windows. Painted the storage room. Fixed the leaking roof over the pump house. He worked without asking for money. But he did not receive a key. He did not manage my accounts. And he did not enter my office unless I invited him. Trust was no longer something he could inherit. He had to earn it. Melissa left Indiana after the investigation began. Mercer Land Holdings was shut down. The resale profits were frozen before any money reached her. Paul lost his notary authority. The false documents became part of an official case review. I did not celebrate. There was nothing joyful about learning how easily people you loved could turn your kindness into access. But peace returned slowly. The 2 old green telephones now sit across from each other inside the station. One came from the front office. The other came from the pump house beside the well. Between them is a small brass plaque. It reads, "One honest call can stop a lifetime of lies." That telephone rang after 27 years because Chloe remembered how to use it. But the call alone did not save my land. The truth saved it. Evidence saved it. And the decision to stop protecting people from the consequences of their choices saved me. Daniel was allowed back into my life. Carefully. Slowly. Without access to my property or finances. Some people call that forgiveness. Others call it foolishness. So tell me what you would have done. Would you give Daniel one final chance to rebuild the relationship, or would helping steal his mother's property be one betrayal too many? Write your honest answer in the comments.